everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, he has already downloaded.
Before we start, I'd like to ask everybody around the table to say their name and their institution, so we know where people come from and their name. Most people know each other, but some don't. So if we can start with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Bob Benjamin. I'm from the University of Wisconsin, and I'm not an old-time VVV person, but I worked on something similar called Glimpse. So.
I'm Dante Meniti from Universidad Andrés Bello in Santiago, Chile. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Roberto Saito from Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina in Florianópolis, Brazil.
I'm Watson Varikar from UCAT, right here.
I'm Philip Lucas from the University of Hertfordshire in England.
I'm Gabriela Navarro from Chile, UNAP, and Sapienza in Italy.
I'm Chen Kuo from University of Hertfordshire.
I'm Ignacio Becker from Católica in Santiago.
I'm Francesco Mauro from Universidad Católica del Norte, Antofagasta, Chile.
I am Javier Alonso García and I am from Universidad de Antofagasta in Chile.
Sebastián Ramírez Alegría, also from Universidad de Antofagasta in Chile.
Carla Peña Ramírez from the same place, Universidad de Antofagasta.
So if you don't know, this is the Antofagasta.
I'm Mary Hempel and I'm a community administrator now in Santiago.
I'm Alexandre Roman from Universidade de Serena.
And I am André-Nicolas Chenet, and I am very happy to have you here. So this long venue was a challenge for many of our group that leads to a smaller meeting than most of the other ones we had, which can be an advantage considering that now we have all that time for ourselves to make the best out of it. So there is a topic for today and a topic for tomorrow. We can develop up to 1.5 hours, but if we're short, we can move on to the breakout sessions after. If we are full of discussions, we can fill the whole time. Breakout sessions is to write those 15 articles that Dante is requesting you to write. If you're short of ideas for stuff to write, you can have ideas for something to observe. And so at Gemini, we have a program that is called Fast Turnaround. Every month, you can submit a proposal for observation. So if you have really nothing else to do, I'd encourage you to write a proposal to use Gemini north or south, following up your targets or increasing your sampling. And for everyone who has submitted a Gemini proposal as COI or PI by the end of the meeting, I will give them a Gemini card game. If you need a demonstrator, we can develop on that at some point. So the topic for today, I wanted to take advantage of the presence of key people from different surveys to have some sort of an open discussion about products. Francesco mentioned the importance of products more than even raw data. Catalogs, atlases, lists, images, all of those sorts. Within the collaboration, we heard this morning a lot about how to access the data from inside, but often we get, so probably you have the same experience as me, when you present your results in other conferences and you say, oh, I'm gladly part of VVV. Oh yeah, it's public, and how can I access the data? And then the question becomes a different story because it's not as trivial for them than it is for us to get all that we are advertising that we're offering. So how can we put together those products? How can we make them available to increase the visibility and the impact of VVV and the corresponding surveys? I'm mentioning here Glimpse and UKids. So that's the original question. We can start off with that. It's okay to diverge. It's the place for that. We also had some questions raised earlier this morning into some presentation. We can move that to that later, but I'd like to start with the products first. If anyone has something to say?
I could just say briefly, I mean, Javier has also already said that you're working right on a new paper for VVX. With a,
I know, well, what I am saying is that I need to perfect a little more the photometry. This is like a first
Sure.
approximation, but I would like to do, for example, for the VVV, we provide an average of 2 epochs per filter. We cannot do this for the VVVX because we only have one image in J, well, one image in V, in H, sorry, and one image in J, maybe 2 in some cases. So I would like, for example, before making the data publicly available to everybody, to run it like twice in K, in 2 epochs in K, and do the average there, and try to do the average in a couple of days if possible.
Sure.
But then, yeah, I will make it public to everybody, like we did for the VVV part.
Sure. And I think it's a similar story with, with Virac. I mean, at the moment, what Lee is planning to publish Virac version 2. Well, he's kind of got, he'll probably tell you tomorrow, but he's kind of got a sequence where he's an astrometry paper on which is only of interest to astrometry experts, describing how the camera distortions work quite soon. And then early next year, a paper on the, I don't know which way around it was, but what one was going to come first. Well, I think it's the proper motion one first, and then the light curves towards the end of next year. So he's already got a working version, but there's tweaks, as Javier has said, because we're still concerned about some of the calibration issues that Gergely, for example, and Ispan have raised, and we're not sure we want to publish a public version if there were still tweaks to the absolute calibration that should be made, because the relative calibration is done.
Yeah.
The light curves look very good. It's just that the absolute calibration might be slightly off in the inner bulge. But at least I think the good news about all of this is it doesn't require anyone at Edinburgh to do anything. We can just publish. to put it bluntly.
Does he have any plans for the VVVX?
Well, not immediately. I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but because he's got enough to do, it won't, So Javier, I'm sure, will have a bit of time to do VVX the way he wants to do it, and then, lessons can be learned and it can be rolled out to all the epochs if necessary. Yeah.
Is there anybody else? Are you working on the VVVX?
I processed some data from Carraro, for Carraro. It seemed to work well.
But you are asking about the multi-epoch?
I'm asking about to know, so that we all know who is doing something systematic through the whole VVVX. Because, for example, I am doing a little things because I ask you for some data, so some focusing. But it would be good to have a sense of who is planning or who is doing something. To do the same with the VVV that we did.
Okay.
To do that with the VVVX.
So yeah, I
know that you are.
Yeah, I intended to do a similar thing.
But for example, Rodrigo, I think is not. He's concentrated on and well, Lee is also not for now. So
I know Yura is working on the list of clusters in VVV.
Yura is looking at,
and she's leading that effort, and we'll probably start the follow-up the same way we did with VVV.
Right. Yeah.
With time and resource allow. But we're on this, and there are all sort of products. Also, in that discussion, I'd be curious to know how user-friendly is the interface you're offering for having access to those products, or if it's not that easy to make it super clear and uniform across all we do, if there could be a place where we could invite people to get a narrative about all we have to offer, because I don't think we have that yet.
Well, we kind of have it in some sense. I mean, for example, I think that the BSA is providing, a way to access higher products of our survey. I think that in order to access CASU, for example, it's more complicated because you have to have the rights. But for BSA, there are some stuff that are public. Well, the public releases of the BVV are hung there. So you can access the VVV GR4. You can access by photometry. Probably in the near future there will be more higher end data products. So
Yeah.
So I guess I was going to say, I mean, naively, what I've started doing over the last year is getting access to catalogs either through the Simbad X match or you know, and what I noticed, of course, from the Glimpse point of view, it's I've noticed that, you know, Glimpse is available in the Simbad X match. I mean, the X match thing has only sort of the commonly used surveys, right? Whereas you can get practically anything through the TopCat, the table access protocol. But the Glimpse that they have at CDS is our old Glimpse. It was our Glimpse 1, 2, and 3, and then all the others survey of the outer galaxy that we have, although it's been public for years now, has not been incorporated. And so actually one of my projects this year was to try to merge all of the Glimpse projects into one data product. And the way we wanted to, we're going to give that to the Ursa because we're a NASA infrared thing. But I also wanted to make sure that CDS replaces the old Glimpse catalog with this new Glimpse catalog. Now, when I look at that CDS and also TopCat, what I see for VVV is that they have DR2 available. Is that what everyone in the world should be using? Is DR2?
Probably not. I mean, there is DR4 already available at BSA.
Yeah, but it has not been available for long.
Yes, probably about a year or so. Yeah, because DR5 is available to the team now, but we haven't released it publicly, right? They're still fixing little bits. So they said it was done, but there was still a few corrections they needed to make. So I haven't spent a huge amount of time doing the quality control checks on it that I normally do because I think you should do science for a change.
But I mean, if it's making it easily accessible to everyone, it seems like that's the way everyone is grabbing their data now, right? And so we need to talk to CDS and make sure that they're using our most current version. Also, CDS, they don't take the full catalog, right? They just take selected columns and even create their own names, which is a little irritating. But it's necessary, I think. Is
that true in Vizier? Do they not just take what because you can agree with them a big upload and give them a table in their format? I thought they just took it. Do they actually take columns out?
Well, if you look at Glimpse, and I assume if you look at your VVV DR2 that's available, you'll find that it's not yours delivered. Okay. I mean, take a look. But that's the way everyone is trying to access it. But of course, we knew there was better data out there. That we knew there was PSF photometry out there, and encountered some difficulties, and I was annoying to Dante about getting it. But the
yes.
I tried to be understanding, but I really wanted the PSF data, and of course there was that problem of accessing it that got fixed, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it seems like the most important thing to make it generally available to everyone is to make sure that it's available through those two routes. Yeah.
Well, you are absolutely right. That's the same situation that we saw with the UKITS data too. Even though much deeper and much better resolution compared to 2MASS. When we look at the publications every year, we see that even for fields where much better data are available through UKITS, people are going to 2MASS just because it's easily accessible. So people are not really making full use of the data available because of lack of easy availability.
I guess it's a bit like SDSS, isn't it? The 2MASS sort of Ursa interface is very intuitive and simple. And if you want to do more sophisticated functionality, something like SDSS and UKITS, you've got to put a bit more effort in as a user. I guess it's that barrier.
So to shorten this from my side, if I want to access DR4, the last release of VVV, should I use VSA or should I contact Dante or Hilo?
VSA is the easiest way to get DR4, right? I mean,
but even in this case, I need clearance, right?
No, it's public.
DR4?
Yeah.
And is it easy to get all of it at once?
No, it's not designed for that. It's because it's too big.
But I mean, why can't there just be a set of directories that's available to people who are willing to spend the time downloading it all?
Well, if you want that version, you can get it. You get it. That's what the ESO releases are for. So it's a totally different philosophy, and that's what ESO decided that people would want. So that's how they built their archive. You can get it tile by tile, the entire lot from ESO, and that's basically what they have is what's sent to them by Edinburgh, the Bound Merge releases. So that's what I'd say. If you want to get everything, so you get a tile by tile bulk download of all of the bits files, you can do that from there. And a lot of people actually go to ESO archive instead of Edinburgh because the ESO communities like that. They see ESO archive as the first place to go, not Edinburgh. They're not really aware of.
So the point source lists are available as fits tables at ESO?
No, because they're not part of the DR4, right? I mean, DR4 does not, as it formerly initially was, didn't include PSF, right? It was just the Aperture product. Yeah. So it was added later as a table, which we made well public, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think we've given it a copy of it to ESO yet. Yeah.
I guess really all I'm saying is that if there's things that you think the world wants, this is how the world is getting it, right? Mm-hmm. is through CDS and through TopCat. Most of them.
Yeah. I'd like to say I agree with the easiest it is to access, the more likely it is to be used. On the other hand, with experience, I can say, I mean, I work at an observatory, and I know sometimes it's so much work to make it easier. We cannot afford getting there, or not quite yet. But there are some low-hanging fruits and some ways to go around this complexity. So from my perspective, you mentioned VSA as being the simplest way to access data, and yet I don't find it that simple. And it's hard for me for making sure that I did the right thing. So if there was a possibility to have something to welcome people into how to use those tools, because they're very obvious for those that are accustomed to them, but for new users, once again, going to conferences and saying, oh, use VVV, they go, yes, how? And then I show, oh, VSA, SQL, really?
Okay, but again, in VSA, you have the freeform SQL, which is, I am also a little scared about it. But in the other hand, they have the cross ID, which you just put the table that you want.
Okay.
And then you give a set of coordinates and just a radius from that coordinate. So you say, okay, I want everything that is within 5 arc minutes of this set of coordinates, this array and deck. And it provides this automatically. I mean, you don't have to do it. You just have to fill what you are asked for, and you are done. So it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The thing is that you cannot get like a big chunk of sky. I mean, there is like a limit.
And they do have this cookbook. So all we all find this stuff difficult. The SQL for VVV is hideously complicated, and only people in Edinburgh really know it well. But so we just get Nick to say, if this is what we want to do, please write an example in the cookbook, and he did. And so that's how I do I think that's how we all do our variability queries if we actually use that interface. We just cut and paste from that and change a few numbers.
How about the multi-F for data? Is it available on the R4?
I'm not pushing. I mean, I haven't checked.
Asking.
No, I haven't checked.
Okay.
Because PSF photometry there isn't. Because there is none that I have done. I don't know if somebody else has done it.
We can certainly make your PSF available to ESO soon, because they have been asking us for PSF, and so I've been saying probably a year ago, I said we probably would be sending it to them around about this autumn. So if no one objects and people want it, then I guess we should. I mean, because it's well public anyway. Yeah. We might as well give it to them. It's just a matter of getting it. It's not quite as simple as it sounds, because you've got to deal with ESO FITS header formats, and ESO has a regulation for every single item in the FITS header. There are reasons why we don't just do this by reply.
Yeah. So that concerns mostly catalogs, I would think. Anything? Yeah.
I have a sort of a related question. I mean, are we all agreed that nowadays people should just ban merge or merge catalogs themselves, or do we want to go to the effort of creating? I mean, do you want to take? VVV and glimpse, and then I heard a postdoc refer to that as professionally band merged.
Oh yeah.
Right, but like people who knew those catalogs knew that the merging was good, right? Because just saying take the nearest source within 1 arcsecond can sometimes cause you problems, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, is it the responsibility of just individual investigators to merge the catalogs themselves, or should we be teaming up to produce combined catalogs?
Well, you did with Gaia.
It's a tough one because it would be good to do this professional merging. The problem is time. In my case, I prefer to do the merging myself because I know what I want. But I see the future in having
pre-merged catalogs.
A good product, yeah.
Yes,
sure.
Well, would it be worth hiring a postdoc just for doing that?
Yeah, sure. But on the other hand, we all get the data that Gaia feeds us. I don't think anybody's reproducing Gaia data. So,
except for the Gaia team.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Part of I personally think it's a lost cause. That nowadays you can merge things fast, and because there'll be a next version of VVV, there'll be a next version of Gaia, there'll be one final version of Glimpse, and then that's it. So, but it seems like because things are constantly being developed, you just really there's not a lot to be gained to doing the professional band merge because things are shifting. But I was curious if people had thoughts on that. I mean, I assume everyone is now band merging, or merging catalogs of millions of sources. So, and it is a pain, but
there is another issue when you try to combine different catalogs from different resolution, spatial resolution. Sometimes you make mistakes because what's a source that is unique in Glimpse or is 3 or 4 or multiple sources in VVV. So and this happens quite a lot. So that's why I think that the choice that Dante made is I would prefer to have the catalogs, good catalogs and hands, but separate, so I can use my own tools,
use your own judgment
and criteria to
Yeah, there's been some work done on this in the last 3 or 4 years by Tim Naylor. Had a student called it's Thomas something or other. I can't remember the name, but he's at Exeter anyway. And he's been calculating the probabilities that you get a mismatch for the reason that you mentioned. So he was looking at matches, for example, between Gaia and Wise, and the very common case that you're going to get the wrong source. But so far, he hasn't gone as far as adding astrophysical insight to the fact that you might actually know that the object you're looking for is red, and that would obviously need to influence your selection. So there is a lot to be said for doing it yourself, but you can get these systems where you have a probability as well attached to the match, just in case.
Yeah. Like merging Wise and VVV seems like exactly the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But Gaia and VVV is surprisingly good. The positions
resolution.
Yeah, that helps. So you're concerned?
There are some regions where that's not true, and it's caused me some real problems with Virac 2. It still knows.
That was late.
Sorry, it's not true that Gaia and
in most cases it is true that the coordinate match is good, but in certain regions it can be off by 300-400 mass, and that can cause problems if you're not very careful. And I wasn't at first.
Is there any pattern to that?
It broadly follows. You see my screen?
Yeah.
It broadly follows this pattern. So this is the bulge, and basically anywhere where there's a color that's not white, there's some sort of issue with but mostly it's the sort of the deeper colors that have problems. But you know, regions like this where the matches were off by 300-400 mass causes problems.
And do you think it's VVV, Gaia, or?
It's VVV. It's the Casu astrometric solution is not super good in these regions. For whatever reason, I have no idea why, but yeah, it's not ideal.
Could I assume that the positions are corrected for proper motion with reference to two mass sources? Could be that there's unrecognized proper motions in the two mass sources that are used to define things.
That may be true. I mean, one detector that springs to mind, one particular observation that springs to mind, the entire array was off by 300 mass in one direction. That I don't think you can really do with one or two high proper motion two mass sources.
Because when we tried basically looking at two glimpse images taken 10 years apart, most of the time it looked great, but occasionally the bright star would stay fixed and the rest of the field would move back and forth. And so it indicated that the original glimpse data was not taking into account the right proper motion for the two mass source that was used to provide the astrometric reference.
Yeah.
Lee? Hi, Sebastian here. Maybe I missed the explanation, but do you know why the difference is not symmetric? I mean, there are not large blue spots.
So what I'm actually showing here is a is average difference between Virac 2 alpha proper motions and Gaia proper motions, averaged within 2 arc minute squares. So the mismatches cause the astrometric sort of reference frame to essentially be randomized, and what you do is pick up the average motion of the field again. You end up with relative proper motions, and so yeah, you'll see what you're seeing is the rotation of the reference star field.
So this all seems like a great reason not to match catalogs in advance. People find these errors on their own. So.
Lee, so Lee, is there a similar pattern in the disk?
I haven't looked in the disk.
Okay, thank you.
I expect there probably would be. There didn't seem to be anything special about these fields in any way. They were just, you know, any old fields. There's no significant reddening or anything in these particular fields. They're just normal, and so I don't see any reason why it would affect the bulge and not the disk.
I can probably give you one, and the reason is that we are using the 2-mass guide star catalog for calculating what the position of the fields for the survey are. And it turns out that there are a couple of stars that turns out are double stars. So the problem is that when the seeing is pretty good, the telescope doesn't know which of the two one to pick. So sometimes it picks the one star, sometimes it picks the other star.
Right.
And we have a list of tiles which are affected because we had to change the list of guide stars to be used for the positioning of the tiles to make sure that is not happening, because that requires interference from the observer. That adds a large amount of overhead. So if you have a list of, which tiles are affected with the largest offset, we can compare this to the list of tiles which had that double star issue.
Right. Well, this one here is B319.
Okay.
That's the one that really stands out, especially if you look in mu alpha. It's basically the only one that has problems. This region up here just has relatively few reference sources, but this one.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I can check it out.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's also not picking the wrong star, the same star all of the time, because it also depends on the seeing. Because if you have bad seeing, it is one star. So and the telescope doesn't have the issue. But I can send you the numbers of the tiles that have that problem.
Okay. Yeah, I can check.
I'm going to follow up on that specific topic. So do I understand that merging catalogs is something we want, but definitely not now? Later, maybe, or we, and so to explain a bit where I come from, we're interested in two clusters, and ideally we have all the wavelength, we have all the light curves, we have all the rendering maps, we would have all your rendering laws, so we could put in a coordinate and it will spit out which alpha we should use. So everything is auto-consistent within VVV itself. You know, ideally we would have access to all of that, but as a small group working on this, we have to do every single step ourselves, and we wonder, is there anything that is already done by the team that we can catch from and then lead it further, or do we have to go from scratch again? That's the from where I come from. That's the question.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow it.
So it's just that to make sure that we exploit all the information that is available right now for one given object, for one given cluster, we'd like to know everything about those stars and everything also before and after them. So if we already have a rendering map and with the extinction laws, if we already have identified variable stars in the field, if there's a lot of information we can use, if we can add to that optical light or mid-infrared light to have a complete diagnostic of what we're looking at, then we feel much more confident in the final result. But we feel since day one in VVV, we had to go by phase and go, okay, that's the VVV photometry, that's what we have. And then we do the spectroscopy, that's what we have. And then at first the referees would go, yeah, good. But now they're like, well, but can't you expand what you have to offer because the data is available? We say, yes, but our time is not. But so just to not to scoop too much, but Carla and Sebastian and myself are focusing a lot of our time developing something that will merge that information for the clusters that we know about. But yeah, it feels like it's going to take us some dedication and some time, because there's a lot that has to happen from scratch. Like all those mergings. Now we have Gaia, so if you already have the merged Gaia catalog, then we don't have to do it. And then we can see if we can use those proper motions, because that's another thing that the referees are requesting now. They don't go as easy as 10 years ago. So yeah, that's a challenge we're facing. So that's why I bring the question of giving useful tools. Like if you could give a web page that says type in your coordinates and it gives you the alpha number, just that would be good. I know you have challenges getting there, but that's the kind of tool that people would love having access to.
That is something that Lee and I have discussed well, a few times actually. But I mean, because we have a Virac version 1 server at Hertfordshire, which has occasionally gone down. You know, these things. You know, you need someone to maintain them. Yeah. But the plan is to do at least an interface that if you want a small area, you can type in your coordinates and get that. You know, and we'll try to have a dedicated server to keep that going. It's an obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
It may not be the way to get large volumes of data, but at least it'll get you the bit that you need for your paper if you don't need too much.
Actually, this is a main issue. We have this. I am myself and Julia Borisova, others that I have been working with Apogee data. The data that the server delivers for us, specifically for very young massive stars, actually they are not ready to be used to the science, to do science. You need to reprocess the data. We need to do that because it's not possible to extract the information that we need to publish a paper before we do this reprocessing, etc., etc. So at the end, what I mean is we are talking about level 4, level 5 data delivered by the survey. And this is a major problem for people that like us that work on the surveys, because we do all the hard work, and then when we deliver the data to the open community, open the data to the community, they do have the advantage that we hadn't during the survey. That's why when I heard Dante, oh, I would like to publish or to have 14 or whatever papers. He's right, because 15.
Not compromising.
But this is the real deal, because we need to put the papers on the table in order to go to the next one, etc. So what I think is the key point here is, could we have access at a higher level, at least in portions of the survey, in order to do our job? This is to extract the information from the data and write the papers and put this into the collaboration and then moving on.
Okay, since you were looking at me,
No.
I will answer very fast. So, for example, with the PSF photometry, previous, the version or preliminary versions of the PSF photometry have been available within the collaborations, like for a few years before we publish the final product, and give it to the whole community. For the VVVX, I am for this preliminary version of the data of the PSF photometry that I have for the VVVX. I am anybody from the collaboration that is asking me for it, I am providing. So we had this also disadvantage of being, within the collaboration. I think that maybe, and this is usually true for most of the high-end data.
You know that I blame myself. A year and a half ago, you gave me some piece of data, PSF data, and for a reason that I'm not mentioned here, I couldn't do the job. So, but I mean, thinking as a collaboration, that if you could have these two in order to maximize the effort. So, okay, just send me an email. Now I know what I should do in order to get some data. Hey, Javier, you have this. But if you could have an interface.
Okay.
I would be happy to help you with that.
Yeah, I understand your point, but I think that is too much work at this point.
Perhaps we could ask money for a couple of postdocs. Sure. We have this possibility in Chile. And I guess from other places too.
Well, we don't have money in England for doing anything to help anyone. Cambridge and Edinburgh have a bit of money, and they're supposed to do everything on limited resources.
But seriously, we could do this in Chile. We have this possibility. It's not 100%. But
it's a nice position you're in Chile. You can get money for that.
Just a comment on the 15 papers. Is because then we will have 200 papers, and this is one paper per night of VVV.
Wow.
So let's do it.
And not many surveys.
Let's try to do it. We need to explore the science case at some moment. Put the science case on the table and ready to have it.
Okay, can I just, while we're still on products, if we're coming to the end of products, the photometric calibration issues have been raised by Gergely and Istvan. And I was talking a little bit to Javier over lunch about this. So I was trying to get a sense, before we provide these products to the community, we don't want to keep reprocessing things. We want a final version that we're happy. Are the issues in the inner bulge that Gergely and Istvan have referred to, are they affecting anybody's science? Anyone who's working in the inner bulge, where apparently there are problems with the absolute calibration,
I've matched for the globular classes no ones. I've matched the 2 mass with the VVV, and there are a few that there is a shift.
Mhm.
So
So that matters a bit.
it might be a problem in some fields.
Yeah.
But they are 3 cases out of 60, I think, that I have done now.
Okay. So you think
So it's
Gurgley's
not something that worries me a lot, but maybe the reprocessing that they are doing at Castle will fix it.
Well,
because they know now.
Well, this is the problem because I mean, I had a little bit of correspondence just before the meeting with Carlos Gonzalez Fernandez, and he said he wasn't actually working on fixing the problem because he thought the Ubercal, which was the plan, the idea of using all the overlaps between tiles and portraits, he thought that would fix everything, which was not would kind of come to the opposite conclusion about 4 months ago when the emails first went around. We kind of thought, well, first you need to fix the problem a bit, because the problem with the Ubercal is you start with the reliable fields at the edge of the survey. You won't have reliable fields in the middle of the galactic center, and so you want to have some anchor fields, you know, somewhere there as well, if you can get them. Where maybe they just decided that it's too hard to do it very reliably near the galactic center because it's just the hardest field anyway. And so you might as well work in from the top and the bottom of the survey, even though it means a long way to go to get to the middle. But I'm just slightly concerned that the communication has gone quiet, you know, except when I raise things and annoy people. But I might just have to go and annoy people just to see if we can get some tests done, because it might be the only way to do it. I don't know.
But what they are saying is there is a difference between 2MAS and PVV, and in some classes there is a difference.
Yeah.
No, not in all filters.
No.
In general, it's in J or H.
Oh, okay. So it's not too bad in K.
But it's not too bad in K.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure also that the problem is VVV. It might be 2MAS.
Well, I mean, Gurgley's saying it's there sometimes in K, but even varies in the same field from one observation to the next, which is a bit weird.
That I have not checked.
Yeah, because I don't understand his methods, because he's using Aurora stars with ogle light curves and extrapolating to some sort of mean K-band magnitude. So I have no idea, because I don't know enough about Aurora stars. I don't know if that's a valid way of doing things. You know.
But the thing, for example, if they are mentioning that the 0 point, or you know, the absolute photometry is changing from one epoch to the other.
Yeah.
And probably, I don't know, I have seen it, or I don't know what is your experience with this. Probably you have done more relative photometry between different epochs that I have done. But for the little that I have done, I have seen that I prefer, you know, to calibrate when I need to do like a light curve or match different epochs. I prefer to do the calibration myself, the relative calibration. So I calibrate all my photometry to a reference epoch that I decide, instead of, you know, calibrating every epoch to the origin, to the CASU photometry, or just using the absolute photometry.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And well, probably that is one of the. There you can see that, you know, there are differences between different epochs.
Sure. Yeah, but you can take it out, as you say, in a relative sense.
Yeah, but the problem is going to be when you need, you know, the absolute photometry for something like this. Yeah. It's gonna be changing.
Yeah, and of course it's a public survey. Someone is always going to want the absolute photometry, even if we don't personally want it every time. So yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll, you know, in order to get Cambridge to do anything, I have to say it matters, and their attitude will be, if no one has mentioned it till now, it can't be that important. You know, right? Because it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
So I just need to find a way of phrasing that, and hopefully being constructive, I guess. But yeah, okay.
On the other hand, I don't know if, you know, for example, when I do the density map of the inner parts of the bulge, as you said, there are differences between different field, between different tiles, or even between different. If you go really to the precise, you see differences between different chips. but because I guess that the sensitivity of the different chips are is different and stuff. But for example, if you take a look at the distribution of the gas, there are not you cannot see significant changes because of the different tiles. I mean, can I
just push? Yeah.
So I expect to see variations in these zones. If we have like 0 points, when you go from a tile to another tile, I would expect to see some kind of tile precision or tile border in this too, and I think that is quite random. So I don't think that the 0 point is so important. I don't know if I explain myself.
Is that because your extinction maps just depend upon the slope of the giant branch and not on the location?
No, but this is not.
This is a density.
This is a density map.
I have a possible suggestion on that, because I mean, I've seen things like that in our glimpse data. If I go all the way down to basically everything in my catalog, but if you pull back, but that's partly because we had certain areas where we had more observations than others. So when you go to basically the limit of your catalog, you start to see essentially your error maps. So if you were to make a star count map that's slightly brighter cutoff,
the cut
the lines go away.
Is K16.
Pardon?
The cut in
is
here is at 16.
So you should be safely above any sort of sensitivity threshold.
That's the reason because I did this. Yeah, because if I go much deeper, the differences are gonna be.
But if you go brighter than 16th, does it go away?
But I don't think it's a lower cutoff. I think it's a higher cutoff. Because it's a seam. That's the saturation.
That can be.
On the other hand, we should be careful with the interpretation of this difference, because one thing is when you use the density pixel, or I don't know, cell by cell, because you use some cells in order to compute the density of sources per, I don't know, square seconds or whatever, right? You divide this in pixels of course.
I don't know. This is top cut.
Okay, so my point is perhaps the difference that we are seeing are not that significant. It's just an artifact produced by the program that generates this. We should take a look on the statistics in order to see what would be the error.
You have to check in here. You have to check into top cut how does it do.
Once a time I work a bit with this. It's not actually that bad.
But what I meant is that in the area where you can see the gas effects on the completeness, you are not seeing any pattern, clear pattern.
This is because the density is very high and the contrast is minimal.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, there is a way. I don't know if you made this exercise. There's a way you cut this in slices, and you have a 2D. You can go through the clouds,
Okay.
and you can isolate the clouds that are behind because we are looking through the. If you make some kind of slices on color, you can see that the structures change with the depth.
Okay.
And I suspect that the quality of your data is enough to make a very nice 3D view of the galaxy.
Okay.
Thanks. So how exhaustive is that topic?
You know, I did have one thing, you know, in terms of merging things with, with catalogs. I mean, one natural thing that VVV could, or, I mean, you guys don't merge with 2MAS, right? I mean, when you
every single paper did it once,
right? But in other words, the data product doesn't. So in other words, if one wants the K band, you know, the K magnitudes of stars across the galaxy, one has to remerge 2MAS and VVV.
Yes. Yes.
And actually, you should keep in mind also that the Vista, all of the VVV data are given in the Vista system,
yes.
which is type 2, but is different from the 2MAS.
Yeah, it's quite similar, but especially in the disk, when you are really blue stars, the age can be quite tricky because the feature of the passband has a little difference, and the calibration start to have some problem. With the really young cluster, we found we have to calibrate on 2MAS because we need to integrate with 2MAS, but we have to give the calibration for some chip where there was not the cluster, so it was not possible to calibrate that higher part, and we have to impose the calibration. Because it's similar, but not perfectly. So
the other thing is also, from my recollection, I think that CASU provides a set of equations in which you can see, in which you can try to move from 2MAS to the Vista system, but those only work in regions of low extinction.
Yes, they're designed for main sequence dwarf stars originally, but between J-K of 0 and 1. You know, it's unfortunately because they're public on the website, people use them for everything.
yes. Yeah, and but if I remember also, because I remember that there was this transformation, but was the old one, not the actual used. So was the coefficient calculated at the beginning of the VVV, so it's really close.
Well, they got updated, right? There was Carlos wrote a paper in 2018 on the version 1.5 pipeline, which has all the new and old things in one place. And I think they have updated them on the website in the last couple of years.
I don't think Carlos is with us right now. No. Yes, but Lei is here.
Yeah, but he doesn't do this part.
Yeah, no. Thanks for your dedication.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm awake. I'm muted, but I'm awake.
You should get some sleep.
I'll go when this discussion's over, I think.
Yeah. Technically, we have a couple more minutes if there's anything related to that that someone wants to bring up. What I have here.
Javier, do you remember that maps, that figure that you showed when Benjamin mentioned that issue about the X shape, and we started discussion about the. Remember that? I don't know if this is the right time to.
It's the best time.
Okay.
Even better than before lunch, actually.
You remember that set of 8 plots?
Let me connect again because I.
Yeah. read it.
Just things about next version of the Casu pipeline. If it is possible just to see to fix some header entries that are several times when you're opening a VV image with AstroPy, PyFits, it's complained that, oh no, this header it's not more used, please use another. Actually, there is also some problem, if I don't remember which entries, that give an error just because the exponential, instead of using the capital A, use the the lower E. I don't know why the PyFits should have some problem, just because they change not lower but upper. But yeah, some quite annoying to open and say, this also for the WCS it's outdated. I know, but I cannot do nothing.
So you mean this one?
Yeah. So the interpretation, if you just take a look on the colors, okay, and if you think that if you compare the distance, the heliocentric distance to the bulge, the main distance, let's say that you fix a main point on this structure, and the size of the bulge itself is much less than, perhaps is smaller, much smaller than this heliocentric distance, right? Let's say we are talking about 8.5 kiloparsec from the sun to the center of this structure. What's the size of the X shape of the bulge?
4 kiloparsec. It's not small.
It's big.
Yeah,
It's significant. When you take a look on the distribution, the low distribution that you see below on the three below diagrams, it's narrow, much narrower than, if I'm not wrong, seems narrow than, for example, the 5-7 degree at side and 7 degree.
You say that the RGB is narrower here than here. Yeah, but it's because of differential extinction. It's not because of other things. It's because here there is more extinction, I think. So it makes the RGB broader.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with you. But look to the main color. The main color should tell us something about this, because each portion of this this structure is represented by this in some way by these three diagrams, right? If you could think about a connection or between linear distance or linear size, because there is a relationship between distance and absorption.
Okay.
Okay. And if you could translate this into a scale, we could recover the structure of this mass of because this is like a huge mass of stars.
Thinking that the dust is homogeneous in distribution.
Yes,
it is clumpy.
We need to make some assumptions, and then I mentioned that because for the first time we have enough resolution, in high resolution, I mean sources with good photometry that translate into good colors, that translate into good. We can translate colors into some kind of distance scale or whatever. You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, I'm not saying that we can reconstruct the entire shape, X shape or whatever, but we could get the most extreme features from this big structure because we can see this.
Yeah, but the thing for the X shape, I think that the important part is that you see here. Well, just look at the ones below here.
Mm-hmm.
So in this area, the red clamp, you can say that this is the main part of the red clamp, is at the brighter magnitude that is in here, isn't it?
You know, for me, if you assume
here,
that
here,
all the
red clamp is that in here, so it's around 13.2, and in here, the red clamp, which is there, is at 12.8, and if you go here, you have two clamps. You have this one, and you have that one.
But what about if instead we are looking to the same kind of sources, but distribute along of so this, because this distribution is slightly inclinated, but not that way. It's just it's almost constant, and perhaps this distribution is produced by the distance across the. We are looking for red club stars in a. Through the bulge.
Yeah. But I don't know, I mean, here, for me, it's very clear that here the red clamp
it's not just the tip, it's not just the tip of this distribution, the blue distribution, but this entire distribution, the blue one, is produced by the red clump stars along this direction. Am I wrong?
No, you say that these are red clamp stars? No.
Yes.
No. This is RGB stars. The red clamp is very defined here. It's just
yeah,
like,
but don't forget that you were looking not to a fixed point into the bulge. You are looking through the bulge.
Yeah, no, I know, but
and if the bulge is 4 kiloparsec long, the effect will be a change in the magnitude of this.
But
you have a lot of red clump along this path.
Not in here. Okay. But you have
4 kiloparsecs long is the length of the bar. Here you're looking to one line of sight, and the line of sight depth is actually quite peaky.
Yeah.
And what is happening is that if you have an X-shaped structure, then you have two peaks, but one of them dominates.
Yeah, but this is just one direction, right? Each one is one direction.
Right.
And how big is what is the radius of this for each one? So
how big is
yes.
This is like I don't remember now. Probably less than.
But this is important. If you're looking for 10 degrees, okay. But if you're looking to a small piece, you will.
No, you're looking on a small piece.
1 degree or less.
Yeah.
So we are integrated through this optical path.
Yes, but there is a bar.
No, it's okay. But you know, the view is perhaps we are interpreting this. Perhaps
there is a line of sight there.
Yeah,
and it's more or less consistent with what you see.
Okay. Just a guess.
But there are many factors because, well, one is extinction, but the other is population changes. If there is an age gradient and the clamp shifts a bit, or if it is a helium or composition difference and it shifts a bit.
But this what amount of color would produce this? Because here we have a 0.2 dex, 0.1. So for the big one, we have more. I mean the yeah. It's a very narrow range.
In the regions where there is less extinction, it's quite narrow. But in the other regions, it can be wider.
Take a look on the -5 and 7. Skewer 2.
So here you see.
So it's like if you have two concentrations, one closer and I don't know. This is what I see there.
Right. This is the X.
Yeah. But in here is where you have to concentrate. You can see both. Here you can only see one.
Right, because there you are in the minor along the galactic minor axis.
Yes.
But if you are away from the galactic minor axis, you see a sharper peak when the bar is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And it's closer in the positive longitudes and it's farther away in the negative longitude.
Yeah.
So this is why
What
on
is
that
on
side
the
is straighter
upper
and on
right
the
Here is right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the bar effect. And the X effect, you see it clearer in along the minor axis. It's actually seen throughout, but it's where it's most evident.
So is there I mean, I realize this is difficult because of extinction and everything, but is there a 3D map of the X-shaped bar now? This is one. I mean, I know Chris Wegg did the map. He basically developed a 3-dimensional mass density map of the bulge and the long bar, but it didn't have an X shape, I don't think, right? So, I mean, why should there not be at this point a 3-dimensional map of the red clump distribution of in the X shape?
There is what Matthias did with his student Chen.
Okay, so there is actually a density map.
That's a 3D. But the thing is that is most worrying in the plane. So he was most worried about the plane. Here we are talking away from the plane. You know, this is 7 degrees away from the plane. Most of the dust is here. It's close by, except what you were mentioning that there might be some features in the bulge itself.
Right.
But at such high latitudes, it's hard to.
But the answer is then yes, there is actually a model of the 3D density distribution.
Yeah, it's a Schultheis. He did one paper in 2014, A&A, and then his student Shen did another one in 2015, something.
And the data since then has been consistent with these models?
Nobody else repeated that.
Okay.
Well, that's a great layaway for the final question I have for the discussion. Is there any action item that can be extracted from that discussion if you consider the whole time we spent?
Could we compare the VVV results with the, I don't know if you guys saw the paper that the Apogee team published time ago about the X-ray structure as seen by the Apogee. They actually claim that the X-shape is there from radial velocities from Apogee.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember.
We could cross match the VVV data with the Apogee data that result from this study and see what happens. What can we recover?
Here's the first action.
Well, I mean,
right
Phil,
there.
it wasn't Phil like,
too much.
what are you saying? I mean, you can see the two sides of the X in proper motion.
Yeah. Of course, we
different
are not
proper
going
motions,
to
different radial
reach all
velocities.
Yeah, you can see it in plan view, and you can also see it in depth view integrated in line of sight. So yeah.
Okay.
So look up the paper by Jason Sanders. It's all there.
Okay. Did anyone extract anything that they would like to do regarding products in general, catalogs, just for continuing business as you were doing already, or is there anything that emerged from it?
I took a couple of things away. So one is that we should make Javier's catalog delivered to ESO as well as in Edinburgh so that people can download the whole thing, which will take a bit of effort, but we'll do it. It kind of gives me a bit more just to do it.
Excellent.
And the other one is just to make sure I do address with Cambridge the issues of calibration and the kind of tests we're going to do. If it's going to be done with the UberCal, we can test that.
Can I ask you one thing here?
Yeah.
So can we wait until the people from Cambridge decide if the calibration is all right before sending this to before sending the PSF photometry to ISO? Because if they find that there is a problem with the 0 point, I can fix, I think quite fast the photometry, but I would like to make sure that the photometry that we are providing is the right one.
Sure.
I mean,
yes. No.
Because my photometry is calibrated to the with the Casu photometry.
Yeah, no, that's a perfectly fair point. There's one reason why we were delaying Lee's release as well until some of these issues were sorted out. So yeah, okay, we can do it that way around. Yeah.
So adding on your list, I mean, is the plan to distribute VRAC 2 the same way you distributed VRAC? Just because you had a website and I just downloaded all that data.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the same thing for VRAC 2?
That's a little bit less clear because the volume is much greater. Because VRAC 1 was just the single epoch stuff, and it's practical to distribute that with proper motions for VRAC 2. If you want light curves as well, the volume goes through the roof, and you probably find you couldn't download it in a hurry.
But if you didn't want the light curves, then
yeah, that's probably doable. Yeah,
I would encourage you to do it because it was easy. I didn't have to bother anyone.
Yeah, yes. It'll have to be a tile set because instead of it 348 tiles, which was nice and simple, Lee's done it with heel picks. So there's
oh no,
I forget how many there are, but there's a lot more, like by a couple of orders of magnitude. So I recently gave 4 tiles.
1,000.
Yeah. How many, Lee?
11,000.
11,000 heel picks.
11,000 heel picks files.
Yeah, so you don't want to download them one by one.
Well, I've learned how to do that too. So
this is why we didn't want to come.
Yeah.
I mean, can those be accessed with the wget command?
Yes, it's just they're too big to actually download in a reasonable time.
Because they include the light curves.
They include the light curves, and they also at the moment include a lot of force.
So I would encourage you to create a version without the light curves.
Yeah, no, there's a separate files. There's the files that have the proper motions, colors, and the variability metadata, like what's the amplitude, and then there's the light curve files, which are separate. They're much bigger.
The metadata is about 300 gigabytes.
Sorry, the total or with the light curves?
Without the light curves. If you add the light curves, it's terabytes. It's like 5 terabytes.
The 300 gigabytes without light curves.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
doable.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's doable.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
You have it here?
Well, actually, I did seriously suggest bringing some of this on disk a couple of months ago, but I kind of forgot about it. Yeah.
And regarding meeting all the standards for something larger like CDS or anything, my understanding is we all wish for something like that, but it seems to be something more on the long way because we can't afford having any effort right now to go there yet.
But maybe CDS themselves would like to do it.
That is true. They're really open to
Because
collaborate.
They might be interested.
It would be worth contacting Strasbourg.
And they certainly have the machinery.
And the expertise and everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you go where the users are, and everyone is using CDS to do all of this accessing. So.
I was wondering, is someone mentioned about the dwarf galaxies?
I saw
a nice CMD,
yes.
In which. So how about the new discoveries? Does anybody is working on this? Looking for the new dwarf galaxies that are being cannibalized by the Milky Way in this direction?
I don't think on an organized basis, but we did some work with the new dwarf that Rodolfo Barba found.
I remember that.
We use also we provide the VVV photometry for this one, but I from my recollection, I don't know if anybody is specifically
So at the moment, nobody is working on this specifically, besides Burma.
Not that I know.
Okay. Because this is probably another hot thing for because the quality of the data is probably more than enough to recognize this different sequences that are characteristic of a different stellar population or family of stars, or whatever you. You know, there is a main issue in radio astronomy. It's regarding the origin of the high velocity clouds. And if you take a look on the GLIMPSE survey, you see a lot of structures well above the galactic plane with very different radial velocities and kinematics. I don't know if you're familiarized with this.
I should be, but I'm not sure.
Many probably have galactic origin, but perhaps some of them doesn't. And this direction would be preferential targets to look. If you have the data, we should take a look on this. Because with TopCat and other software, it's not easy to just start to plot the CMDs and compare using a control field against that. I'd be happy to do this if I have the data. Or find a student or whatever.
And that's action item. I just want to thank you for this discussion and for extracting things we can work on.